Hi everyone, Musa here, and today we're talking about my favorite albums of 2026 so far. We're about halfway through the year and I want to go over 20 or so albums that I've really been enjoying over these past 6 months. This isn't an ordered list, so I'm going to go over these albums pretty randomly, but the first half of this video, or the first 10 or so albums that I discussed, I'll go over them pretty quickly just because I have discussed them in prior videos as well. And then the second half of the video, I'll go over each album in a bit more detail. And with that, let's get started. First up, we have Westside Trapped by heavensouls. Just a grimy, groovy, perfect Saturday afternoon record. After that, we have The Mountain by Gorillaz. Some profound meditations on life, death, and the afterlife amidst production that feels truly global and really breaks down borders. After that, we have Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski. This is her foray into Americana, but the slacker rock vibe still is there. And overall, it all comes together really, really nicely. Next up, we have To Whom This May Concern by Jill Scott, a legendary artist, and this album itself contains some pretty hypnotizing poetry, some varied production, and some great features to boot. After that, we have what I think is one of the first great albums of the year. Back in January, we got URGH by Mandy, Indiana, a great collection of electropop and industrial rock with some pretty interesting, noisy, sonic ideas going through it. We also have Trying Times by James Blake, a very tender, gorgeous record filled with some murmuring aquatic production and James Blake's iconic soprano vocals. We also have An Undying Love for a Burning World by Neurosis, easily the best sludge metal album of the year, maybe one of the best in the past 10 or so years. This is very dark, very heavy stuff, very well suited for fans of the genre. After that, we have Slayyyter's Worst Girl in America, one of my favorite electropop albums of the year. Absolutely no misses on this. Yes God, Beat Up Chanel's, so many hard-hitting tracks on this one. And similarly, we also have You by Underscores, another great electropop record with some very vulnerable lyricism, a lot of variety in its production styles, deeply personal and filled with some insane, very, very creative sampling on the beats as well. And then we have No Ritmo da Terra by Antropoceno. This combines everything from samba, ijesha, folk metal, shoegaze into this amazing collection of tracks that tackles the Anthropocene and how our relationship with technology is altering the natural world as well. And now going into the second half of my list, I'd like to shout out By Storm's My Ghost Go Ghost. This is the debut album by Storm. Previously Injury Reserve, they had released 2 albums prior, and then after the passing of one of their members, Stepa Groggs, the remaining 2 members, Richie and Corey Parker, decided to start a new duo and keep the Injury Reserve name intact for their legacy. The last album that they released as a trio was By the Time I Get to Phoenix. Continuing on with the themes of grief in that album, we get a collection of tracks that tackle not just grief, but life after grief as well. Also on cuts like Grapefruit, we see Richie Parker dealing with things like the commoditization of vulnerability, which they faced after the massive success of their last album as Injury Reserve. It's beautiful, it's poignant, and with Corey Parker's insane production with all of these trembling keys and eerie synths and distorted vocal snippets combined with Richie's hard-hitting lyricism, this is one of the best experimental hip-hop albums I've heard in recent years. We also have Red Star Wu and the Worldwide Scourge by Genesis Owusu. I love Genesis Owusu. I've been a huge fan since Smiling with No Teeth came out a few years back. I feel like he's one of those exciting new voices in the industry right now. This album, though, I think is maybe his best so far. It's incredibly politically charged, incredibly timely, very, very angry in its lyricism as well. And in usual Genesis Owusu fashion, it combines jazz funk, hip hop, R&B, neo soul. So many genres come together. Such a variety in its tracks as well. Just such a fun but also anger-inducing album end to end, just in the way that it tackles a lot of political issues going on at this time. The opening track is great. Hellstar is so insanely groovy. Most Normal American Voter is catchy as hell. And later tracks like For Life and One for All genuinely had me ascending. After that, we have Volume 2, the sophomore album by Angine de Poitrine. This Quebec-based duo went viral earlier this year for their KEXP performance, donning their now famous outlandish outfits. And initially, when I first saw images of this performance, I thought that they might be a bit of a shtick. You know, we have a lot of bands that just have like a certain look and feel to them, but then you listen to their music and it's just like, all right. But I'm happy to report Angine de Poitrine are genuinely so impressive. This album is filled with some incredibly creative, hypnotizing math rock cuts, some very angular psychedelic riffs, and some insane rhythm shifting going on as well. And at a tight 36 minutes or so, it genuinely holds your attention with the first strum of its guitar and keeps you hostage until the last cymbal crash. It's such a concise, hard-hitting album and genuinely such a fun time for fans of artists like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Next up we have, and I'm gonna cheat a little bit here, we have two albums that I'm gonna count as one, Hum of Hurt and Love Is Not Enough by Converge. Both of these released in the same year, just a few months apart. Both of them slightly different, but still, I mean, Converge never really misses, right? Like, for fans of the band and fans of the genre, they've consistently been putting out great albums, but I would say these two are genuinely some of their best work since the Jane Doe era. It's noisy, it's abrasive, there's lots of hard-hitting punk lyricism. I would say that Love Is Not Enough is a bit more melodic and has some great highlights, but Hum of Hurt as a whole felt slightly more consistent to me. But just both of these albums separately or combined are just such great pieces of metalcore music. And next up we have an album by, I think, the internet's favorite mainstream pop artist right now, and someone that I will always defend and always be a fan of, even though I know I don't always come across as a huge fan of this artist. I'm talking, of course, about Olivia Rodrigo and her excellent new album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So In Love. When it comes to her past two albums, I did feel like her music is so earnest, it's so vulnerable, it makes some interesting creative choices, but the writing always felt a little weak to me at times. But this album really steps up the writing, steps up the production, is so cohesive end-to-end, has a concept that it sticks to, and it really sticks the landing each time as well. So many concepts, so well executed. Olivia does wear her influences on her sleeve at times, but genuinely does so in such a likable manner, and you'll get little snippets of Cyndi Lauper at the end of Expectations, you'll get a bit of Lorde on some track, you'll get a hint of Fiona Apple here and there as well. And it seems to come from a genuine place of love and respect for these artists. And I will say, as with her previous albums as well, it is a very commercial pop rock album. It has that sort of sheen, that polish to it. You can tell a huge team of producers, writers, and engineers helped put together the final work, but at the same time, her own personal touch is still very much so there. Her writing has matured so much, and there's such a variety of sounds on this album, and all of these like different types of songs just work so well on their own, but then also as a sum of their parts as well. After that, we have Status Music Update by Leroy. For those of you who don't know, Leroy is another alias by the prolific Jane Remover, whose album Revenge Seekers was one of, I think, my top 5 albums of the past year. And this album, Status Music Update, is only on Bandcamp, so you can stream it there. I think it's available for free to download as well. And it's just a collection of tracks that she made over the past year or so, remixing a lot of her older tracks, combining it with some 2000s recession pop cuts as well, and just creating one of her most hard-hitting, crazy, like bro step, EDM, hard dance sound, mixing in elements of her older Daria core sound as well, with plenty of pop culture vocal snippets mixed in, some video game sound bites coming through as well, as is her usual fashion. And overall, there is less of a focus on the vocals and the lyricism on this album. There aren't a lot of those personal lyrics that you got on Guts from Revenge Seekers, but this is still, at the end of the day, a very well-produced, almost mind-bogglingly complex electronic dance music album. It's a fun little project, essentially. It's not a serious album the way that Revenge Seekers was, but it's still just a testament to how talented Jane Remover is, with the fact that, you know, this fun little side project is still one of the best albums of the year so far. I also want to shout out the Twilight Sads, It's the Long Goodbye. I think consistently one of the most underrated and underappreciated indie rock bands. Today, this Scottish duo has consistently been putting out some of the best feel-bad bangers of the past 10, 20 years. And I think for me, this is right up there with their excellent Nobody Wants to Be Here and Nobody Wants to Leave. Much of the lyricism on this album is focused on frontman James Graham's mother's passing back in 2023. We get a lot of lyrics about grief and loss and leaving and growing from all of these terrible experiences amidst Andy McFarlane's crashing guitars and buzzing synthesizers. Overall, just a very strong, cohesive, mellow collection of tracks by the Twilight Sad. Alright, next up we have Aldous Harding's Train on the Island. I'd only heard The Barrel by New Zealand-based Aldous Harding before, and this album was my first proper introduction to her music, and I'm seriously impressed. This album explores her personal life, her childhood, her relationship with fame. I love the way that she brings forth these stories, kind of giving you little snippets of memories, almost creating like a veneer over her songwriting, and almost leaving you guessing as to what exactly she's talking about. These are the kind of tracks where you might want to listen to it a couple of times before the full picture is laid out. And of course, her gorgeous acoustic, folksy production just makes this such a breezy, beautiful listen, almost akin to works by artists like Big Thief and I know I've mentioned her a second time in this video, Fiona Apple as well. And I would be amiss not to mention her insane shape-shifting vocals. Like, not only does she sound like a different person on each track, but then sometimes she'll sound different on one part of a track compared to another. On Venus in the Zinnia, for instance, she has this very interesting intonation to her voice that sometimes I literally just like loop that song back just at the chorus part because I want to like experience that sound again. Such a fascinating record. Alright, we're on the second last album now, Inferno by Boards of Canada. The legendary IDM duo is back. I've been a huge fan of Boards of Canada for the longest time. I think Music Has the Right to Children and Geo Gaddy are both such excellent works of electronic music, right up there with albums like Aphex Twin's selected ambient works. And this is their first album in 13 years, following a similar style as Geo Gaddy, with its focus on hauntology, taking these old vocal snippets, adding them to their production, and really creating a story out of it. This album focuses on the occult, on mysterious supernatural forces, on organized religion, and has some very infernal sounds and textures to them, with vocal snippets taken from Christian sermons, Hindu chants, and speeches by occult leaders. I genuinely think tracks like Prophecy at 1420 MHz, Blood in the Labyrinth, Your Retreat and Time and Space, and The Word Becomes Flesh are career highlights, literally some of the best tracks they've had since their early work in the late 90s and 2000s. And last but not least on this list, we have the self-titled debut album, My New Band Believe, by ex-Black Midi band member Cameron Picton. You do get the sense that this is an album made by someone from Black Midi, just based on the sort of dissonant feel that it has to it. But the production in of itself is very folksy, very tender, very beautiful, but when you get these like little snippets of darkness in the album, you realize, oh, okay, I see where where the influences are really coming from. Love Story, for instance, one of the standout tracks on this album, starts off with these images of pastoral domesticity before devolving into a final verse that's very violent, very jarring, and filled with some ever-harshening strings. And Picton's unique vocals that go from a warbly soar to a whisper at times are genuinely so memorable, but the production itself is so great as well that even when his vocals take the backseat, such as in the outro to Heart of Darkness, it still is incredibly enjoyable and hard-hitting. And there you have it. These are 20 albums that I've really been enjoying, really been playing on loop this year so far. I love giving recommendations, but I love getting recommendations just as much. So if there's any albums that I missed or any albums that you've been enjoying this year so far as well, do let me know down in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.